The first time he smirked at me, I knew I was in trouble. And trouble wasn't what I had signed up for when I walked into that art studio with trembling hands and a half-broken heart. I thought I was there to learn how to paint, to distract myself from the noise in my head, from the hollow space my father's silence had left. But when I saw him, Ethan, the golden-haired painter with paint stains on his jeans and the kind of confidence that filled a room, I realized my life wasn't going to stay neatly inside the lines anymore. The art studio smelled of turpentine and coffee, the kind of mix that could either inspire you or make you want to throw up. I chose a seat by the window, away from everyone else, hoping to blend into the white noise of scraping brushes and nervous laughter. My hands shook as I tried to sharpen a pencil. And that's when he slid into the seat across from me like he owned the place. "You look like you're about to fight that pencil," he said, lips quirking, voice low and amused. I looked up, startled. His eyes were a dangerous shade of blue, the kind that didn't just look at you, they saw you. I tried to laugh it off. "I'm not much of an artist. Neither are half the people here. Doesn't stop them from trying." He leaned closer, conspiratorial, and for a moment the room blurred. "Besides, you don't strike me as the type who quits easily." The truth was, I was the type who quit. Quit soccer after my teammates found out I liked boys. Quit talking at the dinner table after my dad stopped meeting my eyes. Quit everything that reminded me of who I was before shame made me smaller. But I couldn't admit that. Not to him. Not when his presence felt like sunlight in a place I'd been keeping dark for years. Class started, and I tried to focus on sketching the vase of flowers in front of us. My lines were shaky, clumsy, and every stroke felt like proof that I didn't belong. But Ethan didn't seem to care about flowers. He kept sneaking glances at me, humming under his breath, tapping his brush on the edge of his canvas like he had a secret he wasn't ready to share. By the end of class, my drawing looked like something a 5-year-old would have abandoned. I almost crumpled it up when I noticed something. Someone had written words along the bottom corner of my canvas in soft pencil strokes. "You're braver than you think." I froze. My eyes darted to Ethan, who was packing up his brushes with a maddeningly calm expression. He caught me staring, and that smirk tugged at his mouth again. "See you next week," he said casually, like he hadn't just shattered the walls I'd spent years building. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Those words haunted me all week. No one ever told me I was brave, not when I was hiding, not when I was silent, not when I felt like I was drowning in a life that didn't fit. Brave wasn't a word I recognized, but now it lived on my canvas, breathing under the shaky lines I had drawn. Proof that someone had seen me differently. When I came back to class the next Thursday, my pulse was racing. I sat down, waiting, wondering if it had just been some random kindness he forgot about the second he left the room. But when Ethan strolled in, late as always, and dropped into the seat across from me, his smile told me it hadn't been an accident. That day, our assignment was to paint something abstract, whatever feeling lives inside you. The instructor said. The class groaned, but I felt a strange pull. For the first time in months, I let myself spill something real onto the canvas. Messy strokes of gray and blue, smudges of black, streaks of red I couldn't name. When I stepped back, it looked like a storm trying to swallow itself. I almost hated it. Felt too raw, too close to something I wasn't ready to share. But when I turned back, Ethan was looking at it like it was the most important thing in the room. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Later, when class ended, I found another message hidden on the edge of my painting. Written in faint chalk this time, "Storms don't last forever." Something in my chest cracked open. It became our secret ritual. Each week, no matter how chaotic the class was, Ethan found a way to slip something onto my canvas, sometimes a single word, sometimes a whole sentence. Keep going. Your silence is louder than you think. The world needs your colors. And every time, I pretended not to notice when he caught me reading, when his lips curved into that smile that felt like both a challenge and a promise. But there was danger in this closeness, because every note he left, every glance he gave, was pulling me out of hiding, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for that for him, for what it meant to be seen. The turning point came 3 weeks later. I had just finished a messy attempt at a portrait when I realized he wasn't at his usual seat. Panic rose in my chest before I could stop it. Maybe he was done. Maybe it had all been some game. Then I felt a hand brush mine. He was behind me, leaning over my shoulder, his voice low enough that only I could hear. You keep painting yourself smaller. He murmured. Why? The question cut deeper than I wanted to admit. I swallowed hard, not trusting my voice. He didn't push, just let the silence stretch between us until I finally whispered. Because it's easier not to be noticed. His hand lingered near mine, close enough to burn. You deserve to take up space, he said simply. That night, I went home and stared at my reflection for a long time. For the first time, I wondered if maybe he was right. The next week, when I walked into class, I sat straighter. I picked up my brush with steadier hands. And when I found his new note, I, like the way you see the world, I didn't just blush and hide it. I looked up, met his gaze, and for once, I let myself smile back. But the closer we got, the heavier the fear grew. Because love, for someone like me, wasn't safe. Love could mean rejection, ridicule, even hatred. And the question I couldn't escape was this: was Ethan worth the risk? I tried to convince myself it was just harmless notes, just words. But words have a way of burrowing under your skin, of forcing you to imagine things you swore you'd never let yourself hope for. One evening, after class, he followed me out. The night air was cool, and the street lamps painted the sidewalk in pale circles. I shoved my hands deep in my pockets, praying he couldn't hear how hard my heart was pounding. You never stay after, he said softly. Why would I? I muttered. Because maybe I'd like you to. I stopped walking. The city noise blurred, leaving only his voice, his eyes, the faint scent of paint and coffee clinging to his clothes. Ethan, I can't. He stepped closer. Not enough to trap me. Just enough to let me know he wasn't afraid. You don't have to say anything tonight. Just let me walk you home. I should have said no. I should have shut it down before the ache in my chest grew into something I couldn't control. But when I looked at him, I realized that for the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. And that was terrifying and beautiful. We walked in silence, our shoulders brushing sometimes, and every accidental touch sent shivers racing down my spine. By the time we reached my apartment building, my throat was dry, my pulse uneven. Good night, I whispered. He smiled, soft and steady. Good night, Storm Boy. That nickname stayed with me long after he was gone. The following weeks blurred into something I didn't have words for. He kept leaving notes smaller, bolder now. I see you. You're enough. And once, written in quick strokes that nearly made me drop my brush, you don't scare me. But happiness was a dangerous thing. It made you reckless. It made you forget how easily it could all be taken away. It happened on a Thursday evening, midway through class. A group of students gathered around Ethan's easel, laughing at his dramatic strokes. Someone glanced at me, then at him, and suddenly the laughter twisted. Hey, Is that why you keep sitting together? One of them said, smirking. Should we expect a wedding invite? Heat rushed to my face. The room tilted. Whispers filled the space sharp. Mocking. Slicing through the fragile bubble I'd been living in. I froze. Waiting for Ethan to deny it. To laugh it off. To let me sink back into invisibility. But he didn't. He looked at them. Then at me. And his jaw tightened. Maybe you should mind your own business. The laughter died. But the damage was done. Couldn't breathe. My chest ached like it might crack open. Before anyone could stop me, I grabbed my things and bolted out of the studio. I didn't look back. That night, I ignored his texts, his calls, the knock on my door that went on for 10 minutes straight. I sat on the floor, knees pulled to my chest, whispering to myself that this was why I couldn't let anyone in. Because love meant exposure, and exposure meant pain. Days passed. I skipped class. The silence grew heavy, suffocating. I told myself it was better this way. Safer. Until the day I opened my mailbox and found a folded piece of canvas inside. On it, painted in rough, urgent strokes, were the words, "You are not a mistake. Please come back." I sat there on the hallway floor, the canvas trembling in my hands. And I cried for the boy I had been, for the fear that still chained me, and for the hope that refused to die. The next Thursday, my legs shook as I pushed open the studio door. I almost turned back when I saw him, Ethan, sitting alone at our table, his canvas blank, his expression tight with worry. But when he looked up and saw me, his face lit like sunrise. "You came." He breathed. I swallowed hard, walked to my seat, and whispered, "You didn't let me disappear." Something in his eyes softened, cracked. "I never will." Class faded into background noise. We painted side by side, not touching, not speaking much, but every stroke felt like a thread stitching us closer. And when I found his latest note, "Can I love you," outside the canvas, I didn't hide my tears this time. I turned to him, my voice shaking. "Yes, God, yes." He reached for my hand under the table, tentative at first, then steady when I didn't pull away. Warmth surged through me, filling the hollow places I thought would always ache. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of being seen. Weeks later, we finished our final project. Mine was no longer a storm swallowing itself. It was a sky breaking open, streaked with light. And at the corner, where only he and I would notice, he had added his final note. "Forever is just another canvas we'll paint together." When the instructor called time, I leaned close enough for only him to hear. "I'm ready to take up space now. With you." And as his fingers brushed mine, steady and sure, I knew this wasn't just about art anymore. It was about finding myself in the place I least expected and realizing that sometimes love doesn't just save you, it teaches you how to live. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.